A very warm welcome to the 25th episode of the podcast of the World Wind Energy Association, the World of Wind Power. Today we will speak not as usual about a specific country, but about the global developments as we published recently our annual wind power report, which reflects the latest developments of wind power around the world. And it's my pleasure that I can discuss this today with our president, Dr. Irfan Mirza. Irfan, hello.
Hi, Stefan. Thank you very much for inviting me today. And I think this is a very important point in history because of whatever happening globally that we are discussing wind power right now.
Indeed, yes. So the geopolitical situation is not very easy at the moment. We see more recently that because of several wars, ongoing wars, a lot related to fossil fuels, that this is on the one hand, I think many countries are suffering at the moment. And of course, we hope that there will be peace everywhere soon. But let's say the other side of the coin is that even more governments, countries, people do understand the benefits of harvesting local renewables, and wind power plays a very important role here. And we have gathered information, statistics about the wind power installations last year, and they look quite good actually.
Absolutely, Stefan. And this is we have been striving for the last few decades. And as you very rightly said, that renewable energy and particularly wind offers a fundamentally different model. It is distributed, scalable, and largely immune to the geopolitical checkpoints. So there is no single checkpoint from where you have to take the fossil fuels from one point to the other, and you don't transport wind across straits. You generally have it locally. So yes, I absolutely agree with you, and I hope. I agree with you, and I wish also that there's a peace all across. And but I think generally this proves a point for energy security for every country, and which is indigenous sources. And we have been talking about 100% renewables. That is why you personally, your good self, and the World Wind Energy Organization, we have been advocating 100% renewable energy targets for the world.
Yes, and I would even say that renewables are peacemakers because they just make it obsolete that you don't need to attack other countries to disturb oil supply or whatever. Wind power and other renewables are just there. And you are based in Pakistan, I think. Before we now go to wind, it's an amazing example because solar is now booming, like in other countries as well. I think wind also plays a role, but it's really very good to see that people now are driving this development across the globe in many countries. They just see, okay, we don't wait until the fuel price is going down again, but we just buy a solar panel or wind turbine because that will help us to stabilize for 20, maybe 30 years. What the cost, our expenses are. That's a very, very daily life question, right?
Absolutely, Stephen. Absolutely. And, let me tell you two contrasting examples because I have two countries. I live in two countries. I have two kind of, one is both of them are my home countries. One is Pakistan, for example, where there is a different model happen where people let this solar rush without kind of any formal financing available from the lenders. And we have gigawatts and gigawatts of solar power in the last couple of years. Yes, we must give credit to the policies of the government where they encourage people through tax benefits and things by at least not charging sales tax on the import of panels, which would actually like that. And then there was initially a net metering policy, which was very favorable policy also. So yes, government has given, but this is what happened. Government, and this is the typical example where the government has a role of giving a favorable policy, and the investors and the people, they will then take the lead and develop the projects. Government. So this is one example. The other example I have from my other country, because I live in UAE also. And I'm very pleased to see, and I think this is going to be a new example where people would follow, where there's a lot of IPP development happening. And there is a huge projects happening. Obviously, there is a lot of financing because the country's condition is a lot better than the economic and the financial condition of a country is better than Pakistan. So IPP projects are happening, and that only not happening for power, but uh, for water as well, which is a big issue in GCC countries. So taking this lead by having you know desalination through renewable energy is an amazing thing. So these are two different kind of things, but I think this region, GCC region, is definitely going forward with a lot of positive developments. And also Saudi Arabia, I think also we have seen a lot of desalination plants and IPP projects. And these are mainly the oil, considered to be a oil supply hub of the world. And now these are turning to renewable energy is amazing. And there's a great vision of these countries there. I must appreciate them.
Yeah, it's really amazing to see that. Almost all countries, I think, with the exception now of one, where the central government at the United States tries to block, but still on the state level, there's still a lot happening. Now, IRENA, the International Renewable Energy Agency, just published their annual statistics, and they came out with the number of almost 700 gigawatt of renewables were installed in 2025, which is a new record worldwide, 690 gigawatt. We published our annual statistics last week. Actually, our numbers are a little bit higher in related to wind energy because we have a little bit different methodology. According to our statistics, 169 gigawatt were installed last year, which brings the total installed capacity to 1,346,000 gigawatt, which covers now
Wow.
more than 10, maybe 11% of the world demand, so produces almost 3,000 terawatt hours. This is quite big, and you see that wind plays really a big role in this.
Absolutely, absolutely, Stephen. And that is no longer marginal in any way. It's a structural. Wind energy has firmly established itself as a core pillar of the global energy system. But on the other hand, I think the report highlights a critical imbalance, which I think a very large share of this growth is concentrated in few markets, particularly China, while many other regions are still not scaling at the pace required. So what do you think on that, Stephen?
Yeah, you are absolutely right. And we published actually this time for the first time also, we showed in one graph the share of China in the installed capacity. So when you look at the 169 megawatt they were installed last year, 130 out of 169, this is almost 80%, 77% were installed in China alone. So China is doing this in an amazing pace, and there are quite many countries where even development has been stable or slowed down. We have also looked at what is the installed capacity outside China, and there's been more installations in 25 than in 24, but it's still less than in 2023. So if you don't look at China, just the rest of the world, the world installed in 2025 less capacity than in 2023. And that really shows us what you just said, that yeah, there are quite a few countries which could do much, much more. Although we also have some really very encouraging examples. Some countries with very strong growth, different parts of the world. Chile, for example, and Vietnam, they had almost same stories, or Turkey as well, like China, with growth rates above the world average.
Absolutely. Stephen, is it possible for us to show this graph which you are talking about on the screen for our viewers and listeners?
As we are having this as a podcast with audio only, that
Oh, okay,
unfortunately I
okay.
suggest that everyone who's interested goes to our website, and you find all those graphs on the website. You can also download the report in PDF format, or you just look at the website and there are all these graphs are there, just as one of the first posts there. Or you can also go to our statistics section and you find also country-wise statistics, so also including graphs. But again, here, as I would say like 2/3 of the audience is just listening to us, then of course we cannot show that, unfortunately.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Stephen. But it is good that you have tell them how to download the report and look into the details. And Stephen, this is we come to a point where we see that when we look at the barriers, they are no longer technological. You and I have been to China. We have seen even the turbines, which, the testing facility for a 40 megawatt hub. So the technology is mature, costs are comparative, and the business case is strong. I think what we are dealing now with is a structural issue, policy, uncertainty, slow permitting process, and in many cases, lack of effective community engagement, which is a favorite topic of mine as well, and yours as well. So what do you have to say on this, Sifa?
Yeah, indeed. I mean, what we see in many countries, of course, especially I would say, it started in the what some people call the Western countries. And I remember that the first warning signals came, for example, from our previous president, from Australia, the United States, where there were really sometimes orchestrated groups opposing wind farms. And there's a lot of misinformation about wind energy, wind technology, that they make sick, that they kill birds, etc. If you deal with it, if you look at the scientific findings, this is most of it. There is no substantial basis for those claims. But if people just living somewhere and then they just hear about wind energy and they hear that, they may not change their minds, and that is why I believe, and I think the association can say, we have come to the consensus that therefore it is of really extreme importance that the people do not just understand in theory why wind energy is something good. It's not good for the climate. Everybody understands that, unless you say there is no climate change, which I think is also still happening. But that it's extremely important people have some benefits, direct benefits, financial benefits. People who live next to a wind farm, that they know, for example, okay, this wind farm is there. Maybe it's on our land, so I get some leasing fees from that. Maybe I have other benefits, like this wind farm pays tax to my community. So the kindergarten or the hospital can be paid from this income, which otherwise wouldn't be there anymore. Or I can invest some money. I have some small money that I can invest, or can also be a little bit more. So I have return on that money. Or, I think very important, I have reliable and cheap power from that wind farm. And the people who understand this and they just feel it, they pay, let's say, per year hundreds of dollars or euros or thousands of rupees less per month or year for electricity. They will not mind about misinformation. They will not say, okay, yeah, no, this wind farm is bad for us, because they feel the benefit. And that is why we have agreed that we should work on that and come up with guidelines how to make benefits available. It's part of our community engagement guidelines, which we launched publicly, and you played a very active role in this.
Thank you, Stephen. And I think this is exactly what organization has been telling everybody that we need to show that people feel ownership. And you said it also. So if people feel ownership, I think that there's nothing stopping, at least in European region or the other regions where communities are stopping. So I think this is very important.
Yeah. Now we launched these guidelines, and it's very interesting because we had entities from around the world who participated in drafting those guidelines. There were companies from China, Brazil, from Europe, Germany, Australia as well. So I believe that they reflect really a very broad and diverse perspective. They can really serve as a very good basis under also different cultural, political, also economic circumstances that wind farms are developed, let's say, in harmony with the local communities, and so that the local communities really become not just accepting the wind farms, but they become proponents because they see, oh, that's really good for us. That's really good.
And this is what we are striving, Stephen, that if these big development agencies, lenders, if they make it a precondition, so I think this is going to be for example, even they are, giving debt to a project, this kind of a community guidelines should be a kind of a precondition to that or condition precedent to that. So let's see how things will move. Our job is to keep working, keep striving, keep telling everybody that what is the right thing to do. And, let's hope that one day everybody would understand what we are saying and why we are saying that.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. Now let's look into the maybe the world regions, and I think let's start with Asia because that's now by far the largest continent, not only in terms of population, but also in terms of the installed wind capacity. We've already mentioned China. China is doing an amazing job there, with now an installed capacity of probably at this point of time 700,000 megawatt. And when we started working with the
Mm.
Chinese colleagues, 2004 was my first visit. The installed capacity there was 500 megawatt. 500 megawatt compared to 700,000 megawatt. And the official goal of in China is to reach 3 million megawatt. That is amazing and quite kind of exceptional. The second largest Asian market is, and that's now the largest country worldwide in terms of population, is now India, which when you look at the Chinese numbers still looks small, but they had last year an installed capacity of 6.3 gigawatt added. So they have now really a very dynamic market, second dynamics. And I think India is doing now a lot also to accelerate and shift towards renewable energy. Also, I think in solar energy, there's a lot happening, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. India is doing really good as far as the renewable energy is concerned. They are among the first few countries, as far as I remember, who have actually started renewable energy as their ministry. So they have a particular ministry for the renewable energy. I don't know the exact name. I'm sorry for my
It's a
this, but
Ministry for New and Renewable Energy, MNRE.
yeah, yeah, Manar. Yes, yes, I forgot. Thank you very much. So my memory, I'm getting old, so my memory is so. But I really appreciate. So they are among the few visionaries who understand that this is going to happen, and they have their own ministry, and they are particularly doing really good. And the potential in Asia is enormous, not just in large economies like India, but also in the emerging markets. So
Yes,
with the right
indeed.
combination of policy, stability, financing mechanism, and capacity building, Asia can drive the next phase of global wind expansions, even if we exclude China out of it. So,
Yeah, and the big surprise for me to some degree was Vietnam, which I think many people
absolutely.
don't think of when they think of wind power, which now has an instant capacity of 7.4 gigawatt. That is now behind China and India, the third largest market for new wind turbines. This is, I think, one of those countries you have pointed to, which has very now strong momentum and obviously very clear direction that they want to install even more.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, let's go to Europe. Europe, of course, is a bit complicated in terms of because there are so many different countries, but many strong markets. Europe was for many years the leading continent, but now we see that technology-wise, the shift has moved a bit away. Until 2 years ago, we thought US with the Inflation Reduction Act would be competing directly, but Trump is now withdrawing all this. What we see in Europe is, of course, some countries are still doing very well. Germany took the lead again after some years where it was not developing so well. But other markets are also doing well, including, for example, also very dynamic Turkey, France, Sweden, Italy. So there is robust market growth, and it seems that Europe stays on track, although maybe less dynamic than some of the Asian markets.
I agree with you. First of all, Stephen, I think you hit the nail in the head. Europe is sending mixed signals at the moment. On one hand, there is a strong commitment to renewable energy and energy independence. We have seen that. On the other, there are policy uncertainties, competing priorities, such as debates around nuclear and fossil fuels. So that I think is affecting momentum.
Yeah, that is absolutely right. Yeah. Now, as living in Europe, I can just confirm that. Yeah, it's not such a clear direction. So let's see what will happen in the next 1, 2, 3 years. Now, looking to North America, if we shift our focus to North America.
Yeah, just one thing, since taking opportunity and advantage of your living in Europe, one thing I always have in my mind is that one of the biggest challenges in Europe, is it the long permitting process as well?
That has been an issue, but if you remember some years ago, we did a survey amongst different countries and the duration of permitting processes. And yeah, they are taking some time in Europe, but there were also non-European countries where it takes quite some time. Of course, Europe, which is often kind of identified with bureaucratic, European Commission, although sometimes it's not really justified, such complaints. But what we see is it's getting better now. So the duration of permitting processes are a bit less than they used to be 3, 4 years ago. That is also, there are some national statistics from where we can see that. Because people understand we need to do more. But I think these mixed signals, are we now going really very clearly for renewables? Are we stopping now to register new combustion engines, or are we going for electric cars? The direction is not as clear as, for example, in China.
Absolutely. Thank you, Stefan. I think this is it. Yeah, let's move to...
Now, North America, I think that is even more difficult to understand what the continent, or the United States of America mainly, in which direction that country moves. Of course, with the Trump administration, Trump is not just trying to forbid wind farms, but even now giving money to developers not to build wind farms. That's really a new dimension. But still, the United States installed substantially more last year than in the previous year. And we know from many municipalities, enterprises, and the states that they just don't want to follow what Trump is telling them, because they just don't want to pay more for fossil fuel than for wind power. Solar, probably similar.
Yeah, I think growth has been relatively modest compared to the other regions, partly, and you said it, due to the policy shifts and administrative decisions that have affected project pipelines. And obviously, investor confidence is the key in any region. if we really wanted to do these infrastructure projects. So investor confidence is the key. So whenever there is a political shift, administrative decisions like that, investor confidence is kind of a bit shaky, and we always see a slower progress in those regions.
Okay, well, the many expect that this year, maybe next year, there will still be some kind of small boom in wind energy because from the Biden administration, there's still some rules in place which will be phased out. But the problem, as
Mm.
you rightly say, is that it's not so clear with the US at the moment what is the mid longer term perspective for the country. And so I think nobody knows that at the moment, actually. But when we look now to South America, then it becomes interesting as well because there is, of course, now the big leader Brazil, which also installed a reasonable capacity last year, which was substantially less than in the previous year. We had 2.2 gigawatt of new capacity after 5 gigawatt in 2024, with an overall capacity
Mm.
now of 36 gigawatt, which is substantial. But there's a surprising, not really newcomer, but very dynamic market is Chile suddenly, which increased its
Absolutely.
capacity from 4.8 to 6 gigawatt. And that is a growth in that range of 24%.
Absolutely, absolutely. And you rightly said Brazil continues to be the largest market, although growth has slowed compared to the previous years. But yes, Chile is showing very strong momentum. So momentum is with Chile, and let's see if this continues, they can very easily become one of the very strong markets and the flag bearer of wind in the region. In the region.
Yeah, and I mean, many of the South American countries, they have, of course, the big advantage of having high shares of hydropower. That's also the case in Argentina, Brazil, and Chile, where you can easily add wind power, which is sometimes, I mean, the output can be very well balanced with hydropower. And I think that is really a huge advantage, especially compared, of course, to many European countries.
100%. South America has the resources and the experience as well now. The key is maintaining consistent momentum now.
Yeah, yeah. So now moving maybe to Oceania, Australia in particular, as we just talk about at the end of the day, it's kind of two substantial markets, as Australia and New Zealand. Of course, both countries are a bit limited in size of population. Australia had very strong growth the year before. Last year was not so much. That market, I think, plays a role. It's very interesting to look at the longer term developments in Australia, and I believe especially the storage sector is developing very well because they do a lot now to integrate
Mm.
wind power and solar.
Absolutely, because it's a huge area, and I see sometimes the similarities like Pakistan, where it is very difficult for us to take the grid all across the country. So I think solar, wind, BESS, I think these are the Australia and Oceania can be one of the leaders in those technologies, and this is what they are doing actually.
Mm.
And yes, it's a good example of how quickly the markets can respond to policy signals. Earlier uncertainty slowed down project development, but with the clear targets now in place, we expect investment to pick up again. Let's see.
Especially South Australia is, I think, an example for many countries as they do not have hydro capacity as a storage, for example. But they are close to 100% renewables now, mainly with solar, wind, and battery storage. So that's something the
Absolutely.
world can learn a lot. And I think some of the biggest batteries can be found in South Australia.
Absolutely. We all have to learn from it because in a lot of other developing countries where the grid is not that strong, and for example, even in Pakistan where I'm living, we have this net metering policy where, but now the grid, because of the technology issues or technological issues of the grid, weak grid, and things like that, we cannot continue like that. So it means we need to introduce BESS, and there is no better country to learn than what you mentioned.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, no, I believe that while we have, as I mentioned, in South America, you can easily combine renewables, wind and hydro, but Australia teaches how to do it. Of course, there's, for example, Tasmania has also a lot of hydropower, but the mainland of Australia can teach the world how to do it with really more innovative technologies. Now let's look at the continent we haven't touched so far, and that's Africa. And Africa, of course, is the most dynamic continent with still very strong population growth, also economic growth. For many people, when they talk about Africa, they just speak about the kind of they're poor, they need to be supported, etc. Africa, I believe, has a very interesting market segment, and that's the off grid and mini grid area. When we look at the statistics that we published last year, there are some countries which have essential amount of grid connected installations. That's mainly South Africa and Southern Africa, which is added last year around 200 megawatt of installed capacity. And then we have Egypt. That was the first country which really installed a lot with around 3 gigawatt of installed capacity, and Morocco in the northwest. So these are those three countries which have a gigawatt size market overall. The rest of the country, I believe, of the continent, excuse me, I believe may not have major wind farms also because the grid is not existing there. Have you? What's your assessment of African continent?
I agree with you, Stephen. Actually, I have been personally doing some projects, consultancy projects in Egypt and Morocco as well. And I think you are absolutely right. They not only have the capacity as far as the grid is concerned, but they also have the economies where they can use this electricity. Actually, this is the most important thing. You cannot just produce electricity if you don't have the capacity to use it. So obviously, South Africa, Egypt, Morocco, these are the countries where they have economic capability and capacity as well to need this kind of electricity and utilize it to make a useful contribution as far as the products are concerned. But other African countries, I think, yes, there might be some examples which we might miss, but generally, overall, I think there is a requirement of a lot of off-grid solutions as well. And even in countries like India or even some part of the Kazakhstan and others where they don't have the grid infrastructure available all around. So they can utilize these kind of examples. Even in Pakistan, in one of our province, Balochistan, we have a very weak grid and 30% or 40% of the population live without electricity or should not say without electricity because now there is because of the solar, but they should live without connecting to the grid. So, so I think as we were discussing about BESS as well and the Australian experience, I think that experience should be really, really important. And as World Wind Energy Association, what we are trying to do with the small wind, and we are promoting the small wind in regions where we have the wind resource and utilize it with the best technology. And I think this is going to be a perfect solution. Sometimes I'm not biased, but if you have a good resource, small wind and BESS might be cheaper than solar and wind as well. Oh, sorry, solar and BESS as well. So combining the small wind, solar, and BESS, we can get a lot cheaper result than only solar and BESS.
This is a very exciting development because we have been talking a lot about growing wind turbines. Now, you just mentioned that in China there is a test stand now for 40 megawatt machines, and above 20 megawatt machines are now standard, at least in China. And in the rest of the world, we have in Europe 10 to 20 megawatt machines. So the machines are growing, especially for offshore, but also for onshore purposes. So we see that it makes sense, of course, when you need a lot of amount, you have a strong grid, you produce a lot of energy, and that's where wind also has a strong role to play. But you just mentioned these decentralized places, and with hundreds of millions of people who still live in these not grid connected areas. And for that, I think it's really very important to have a look at this, and that governments also create the right frameworks. And we're not talking about subsidies because I think in terms of economics, these systems are feasible. Just people need to be, for example, allowed to put them there, and they need to have access to the technology, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And Stephen, I just wanted to add what we are discussing is with respect to Africa. So Africa might be at an early stage than the rest of the world, for example, the Europe or Asia. But it means there is a lot of opportunity as well. For example, in a mature markets, opportunities for developers, opportunities for manufacturers, opportunities for EPC contractors are a lot lesser than the emerging markets. And I see a lot of opportunity in Africa, and I think in the coming days, I can assure you, in the coming days and coming years, you'll see a lot of these manufacturers, developers, EPC contractors would be using these opportunities depending upon the policies of the government. And I think this is a huge opportunity for the governments in Africa as well
I mean, you can see
because the
that in
technology is mature.
in some
Sorry.
technologies. Please.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, no. I was you can go ahead. I was just trying to add that because when initially the other markets start, the technology was not that mature as well. But now I see a lot more opportunity in Africa because these technologies are really mature. BESS, solar, wind, all these technologies are mature. So there is a huge opportunity in Africa now compared to the rest of the world.
I
Yeah,
was just
please go
saying
ahead, Steve.
that you see that in some areas, other technologies, let's say, for example, online payments, when we in Europe still paid with coins, many African friends, they already use their mobile phones to pay. Now, has become common as
Mm.
well in Europe, for example. But you can see that that really, I think, brought a huge advantage to many African countries because without having to build the infrastructure, in that case, for the payment, banking, whatever, you can do that right away, leapfrogging. And I believe that this is also happening in terms of energy. Cars is another example, no? With electric cars, which are now obviously reaching African countries, and some countries are now only allowing even electric cars, not those old third-hand cars, combustion engines, which are difficult to refurbish. But that is a really exciting and I would say encouraging development.
Absolutely. You have actually initiated a very interesting topic, electric vehicles. And I know you have been driving one for the last so many years. So actually, we need to develop a complete ecosystem. Again, since I'm living here, so I'm just giving an example of Pakistan. I see a policymakers that keep on saying that, okay, we cannot have more wind power, more solar power because we have excess power in the country. And at the same time, we are import dependent country and importing billions of dollars of oil every year. And significant portion of that oil is going into the vehicles, into the railways and others. So countries like us have to think beyond and come up with new integrated policy where we see, okay, all the railways, all the vehicles, all these things are going to be electric, and we are going to generate electricity through renewable energy.
Mm.
For example, we don't need to have a, for example, a lot of smart people would come up and say, oh, we need to have a base load. We cannot have that much batteries and things. But if you think beyond, if you think flexible, close your eyes, think open, we have a lot of hydro potential as well. So we can have a hydro batteries as well. We never think of hydro batteries in Pakistan. So we keep on, for example, installing thermal power and this RLNGs projects because we think, okay, for the stability of grid, all these things are important. But I think this is just an example, just as a case study, and a lot of other countries can think and have integrated policy rather than just thinking using this electricity on the grid.
Mm. Yeah. Well, this is indeed a very, very interesting development, also very encouraging development. And obviously, a lot of this transformation will be done through electrification. I mean, where I live, of course, we need a lot of energy for heating. And I'm also using a heat pump, and you can see that the heat pump uses maybe less than 20% of what you used before as gas. When you look at the original energy, in the case of transportation, that's worldwide. What we obviously will see, and it has already started, is that there will be a shift away from just burning energy in the form of combustion engines or for heating, and more electrification. And in our report, we have described such a scenario also by saying that, yeah, assuming that the electricity consumption will kind of double in the next decades by 2050, and wind energy will have a large share. Let's say we had a scenario some time ago developed, could be 40% of the power worldwide could come from wind. And that means that we need, and I think this number is not so crazy, it sounds like achievable, we will need 10 million megawatt of wind power installations worldwide. Again, to compare this for our audience, we have now 1.35 million megawatt, and like an eightfold increase to 10 million megawatt sounds achievable in a time frame of 25 years.
Absolutely, Stephen. We see exponential growth in China, which is leading the electric vehicles category as well. So why not the rest of the world? There's a lot of opportunities actually coming ahead.
And that 10 million megawatt means we need to install per year around 350,000 megawatt, which is double what we did now. Again, this is achievable because we are installing now, compared to 5 years ago, we are installing double the amount now. So we are not talking about something which does just sound like a vision for the future, but it's in reach.
Absolutely, 100% agree, Stephen.
And
This is all within reach.
I think one topic that we have not yet touched upon, but I understand is, for example, from our colleagues from India, Spain, it's becoming more and more important that we look at repowering, which means replacing older
Absolutely.
turbines with newer, and means we know already what the wind speeds are at a specific site. Because there is a wind farm, let's say there are 1 megawatt turbines, but you could now build 7 megawatt wind farms there, or 7 megawatt turbines there. So with repowering, you could have 3 times, maybe 4 times the amount of installed capacity.
Absolutely, Stephen. I think, for countries which have started earlier, like Germany, Netherlands, or other European countries, now they have the turbines which are getting older now in India, in Spain. You mentioned Spain as well. So I think repowering is the name of the game. But we need to, during the repowering, we also have to see that how sensibly we can use, uh, kind of a getting short of the right words that what we are going to do with the old turbines in a sensible way. We cannot just make this garbage, at the litter of the world. So what we need to do, how to recycle each and everything. This is all not only repowering, but recycling as well. We have to see what we are going to do with the old parts. So this is also very important dimension as far as that is concerned in the repowering. That is the recycling, I would say.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, that is. I mean, most of the parts. One of our board members, he's just going through this process, and he's telling me, for example, the towers, they are just concrete towers. Of course, the steel they take out and that will be melted again, and the concrete is used as a gravel for roads again. Huh? So just some of the where there's also progress. Indeed, that's the blades. Where there's now also products on the market which can also be recycled and reused. But that is certainly another challenge the industry has to tackle to have 100% of the product to be reused, recycled in some way.
Absolutely. But the biggest advantage, Stephen, is the grid connection. Because whenever we want to develop a wind project in remote areas where generally the wind resources are, it would be always be a tough to get the grid connections and all these things. But during the repowering, we have the sites, we have the grid connections, we have the infrastructure, we have the road network, we have everything. So upgrading turbines can multiply output without starting from the scratch. I think this is huge opportunity, and there's the huge opportunity coming in the years. And this would also, as you were saying, the about the installations, per year installations, I think this would also help achieving that repowering.
Yes, indeed. I mean, achieving the 10 million megawatt by 2050, repowering can definitely contribute maybe 2 to 3 gigawatt. 3 gigawatt we will find in China, so we need to just add another like 3 or so gigawatt in the rest of the world, which should be doable.
Absolutely, absolutely, Steve.
Very good. Yeah, Irfan, I think there was just one aspect which we have not yet covered. Of course, time is running as usual, and we talk about really a big and with many different facets topic. That's training education. Training education,
Yeah,
now,
yeah,
from your perspective, is that still an issue for the industry?
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. And let me take you to our last World Wind Energy Conference in China, where I think I'm very proud to say that we have started a Whirlwind Training Institute, and where Stephen, your good self is the kind of what exactly the name they have given you a
It's the
specific name? Is it like a vice chancellor?
Whirlwind Energy Academy, and yes, we have a group of leaders, president, dean of this academy, which will be overlooking the operations. That's, I
And
think,
you are the
indeed a
president,
very
huh?
important. Yes. Mm.
Yes, and you are the president of that academy, and I think there is definitely a need for that because whenever we see the training and education, we think it is just the training of the engineers and things, but if you see, l- if we really wanted to achieve that target of 10 gigawatt, what you are saying, a lot of offshore markets are coming up. So there's a lot of training required how to do these offshore training. Even in that academy, you have a swimming classes as well to how to do things underwater and things. So there is a lot of things which are required. For example, not only the engineering things which a lot of universities would cater, but a lot of hands-on skills as well. I think this is a must if we really wanted to achieve the scale.
Indeed, and the idea is to have a network, a global network, so that those countries who have not so much experience yet, for example, our colleague from Cuba was very interested to hear about it. He said, "We need that. We need that now." I think everybody who knows a bit
Absolutely.
about that situation understands it right away. So, yeah, indeed, I think that's a very important milestone to do training education of the staff on all different levels. I mean, you have, as you just rightly mentioned, the divers, you have engineers, you have all time, you need economists, at a very big range of different jobs and education that you need for that. We've done an important step, and I believe that that will really contribute to having maybe even accelerate the deployment of wind energy around the world.
Absolutely, Stephen. Absolutely. This is actually very, very important. And let's see how things will go. This energy transition is not just about technology, it's about people. This is
Indeed.
the most important thing. And that means investing in training and skills at scale is the most important thing we have to do, actually.
Yes. I think that is an excellent conclusion of our podcast, which was supposed, and I think we've managed that quite well, to reflect upon the situation, the challenges, the prospects that wind energy faces today, in at times of geopolitical challenges, tensions, but also I understand an increasing interest of many players in this community to work together jointly for a better world.
Thank you, Stefan. It's such a pleasure, sitting with you and talking on this report, and I'm really proud that World Wind Energy Association is keep on doing the good work. And let's hope and keep our fingers crossed that whatever strength we have, we'll try to do the good work. Keep on doing this.
Yeah, thank you very much also for all your contributions that you're making to this global development. I know, of course, in your country, but also globally. Yeah, it's been a great pleasure, and I hope our audience finds this episode interesting. Um, Now, thank you, and the next episode will, of course, again focus on a specific country, but we hope that you enjoyed and found this insightful. Let us know your feedback. We're happy to receive your responses, also questions if you have through our website. Yeah, thank you, and goodbye.
Goodbye, everybody. Thank you. Thank you, Stephen. Bye bye. Take care.